big problem was not so much the large levels of credit, it was how credit was taken. So in many countries, Hungary for example, credit was taken in foreign currency. So households were borrowing to buy homes in foreign currency, in Swiss francs or in Japanese yen, which makes no sense. And companies were borrowing because everyone thought that the local currency, whether it was the forint in Hungary or the lat in Latvia or the ruble in Russia, they all thought that this would appreciate relative to these foreign currencies. So that was the real vulnerability, and that's why Hungary was the first one to be affected, because they had a very high exposure in foreign currency. They had two things. They had foreign currency exposure and they had fiscal problems. And of course, had they been part of the euro, the situation would have been very different, because then they would not have had this vulnerability to currency. And so that I think is a lesson. The question is, will they now be allowed to join, which is not necessarily true. So while these countries, you are right, are now much more interested, and particularly I think what is different now from before is that this interest in the euro goes much beyond just the elite in the countries. It's a broad feeling among the population, and that has really changed. And then another thing that has changed is that the rules that are written down, as a law, whether you can join or not, those rules, because of the crisis, are more likely to be met. So particularly on the inflation side, so the idea is that you're not supposed to join if you have inflation that is much above the average in the European Union. Now, because of the crisis, the inflation is coming down, and they'll be more likely to join. And that was the main obstacle in the past. I said you shouldn't draw the lesson that is bad to open up. I think the Eastern Europe shows, on the contrary, that they have benefited a lot from opening up. Again, they didn't have much of a choice, but they have benefited a lot. They turn out to be vulnerable now in the financial crisis, but they have had. You should have to look over a longer period of time, and they have benefited tremendously from opening up. I think there are lessons about regulation. There are lessons about giving authorities to supervisors. You should watch out for foreign currency exposures, and there are, I think, lessons about carefully restructuring your domestic financial sector. So you make sure that when you let foreign banks in, you should make sure that they are properly supervised and regulated. And I think that's a big question that somehow needs to be addressed at the global level, right? In Europe at the regional level.